Welcome back to part 2 of our SAT Mathematics Prep series. In the first part, we answered questions 1 through 7. This time we'll be continuing, and we ended off in question 8, which reads, in the diagram above, lines EF and GH are parallel, and line AB is perpendicular to lines EF and GH. So let's look at line AB. That's right there. What is the length of line AB? Okay, given that this line and this line are parallel, we can use the properties of parallel lines. This line intersects both, and so it's called the transversal. That's the technical term for it. The length from here to here is 10, and we're told that this angle is 120. We can use the supplementary angles rule to find out this unknown angle. Supplementary angles tells us that if you have a straight line, as you can see here, and one that intersects it, the sum of these two angles is 180. So if I take 180 and subtract 120 from that, I get 60. This means that this angle is 60 degrees. The reason why that's important is because now we can use the alternating angle properties for parallel lines. And that tells us that if this angle is 60, so is that. This is important because we have a right triangle. We know it's a right triangle because they tell us A and B is perpendicular to EF and GH. So this makes a 90-degree angle. And all we have to do, if we want to find this side, is use trigonometric functions. Namely, we want the opposite side of 60, and we have the hypotenuse. So O and H. Remember the acronym, SO, CA, TOA. The one that relates O and H is sine, so we'll use that. We'll say sine of 60 degrees is equal to opposite, which is what we're looking for. I'll write down OPP, over H, which is 10. To solve for this variable, we multiply both sides by 10, and we should end up with our answer. Now make sure that your calculator is in degrees. Mine already is. I'll type in 10 times sine of 60, and we end up with 8.66. That is equivalent to 5 and times the square root of 3. That's the answer. Now, of course, you might not have a calculator that is as convenient or works as convenient as this one. So you may need to use special triangles to find out the ratio for sine 60. Let me do one for you really quickly. If we have 30, 60, and 90, opposite of 60, and it really helps to memorize this before your test, is, if I recall correctly, the square root of 3. Opposite of 90 is 2, and opposite of 30 degrees is 1. So if it's sine 60, it's opposite over hypotenuse. Opposite is the square root of 3, and the hypotenuse is 2, times 10. So 10 divided by 2 is what we selected, or what our calculator gave us originally. All right, let's move on to 9. The expression shown here is equivalent to. The good thing about this is that the numerator expression is a quadratic, and so is the bottom one, and I'm assuming that they can be factored. So let's start with x squared plus 2x minus 15. What two numbers multiply to negative 15 and add to 2? I think it's 5 and negative 3. You can use this technique whenever there's no leading coefficient. So I will write down x plus 5 and x minus 3. I just factored the top, and that will help us reduce this down. Similarly, we do the same thing for the bottom. What two numbers multiply to negative 21 and add to 4? I think it's 7 and 3, or 7 and negative 3. So at the bottom we have x plus 7 and x minus 3. How convenient is that? These two cancel out, leaving us with the answer C. In question 10, the point 2 and 1 is the midpoint of the line with the endpoint at negative 5 and 3. and. So you need to know the midpoint formula, obviously. The midpoint formula is the point along a line segment that is, as the name suggests, in the middle. What is the midpoint formula? Well, remember, you're not going to be given any formulas on the SAT, so it helps to know this. It is the average of the x's. So we have x1 plus x2 divided by 2 and y1 plus y2 divided by 2. It's been a really long time since I've used this formula, so it just came into my head. Make sure that you do a lot of practice so you remember. If we set this as our first point, then we have negative 5 plus x sub 2 over 2. And this will be 3 plus y sub 2 over 2. Individually, I'll take this coordinate, the x-coordinate, negative 5 plus x sub 2 over 2, and set it equal to 2. And solve for x sub 2. To solve this, I multiply both sides by 2, leaving me with 4 on the right side, and negative 5 plus x sub 2, bringing the negative 5 over, I get 9. So which of these has 9? Right there. Now, I don't often suggest this, but I'm going to assume that D is the answer, even though I haven't checked the same thing here. You shouldn't do this. You should definitely check this one as well, in case this one happens to be wrong. The math of your first attempt happens to be wrong. But for the sake of simplicity, I'll just choose this because I trust that my math was done correctly. Moving on to question 11. Lindsay grows only roses and tulips in her garden. The ratio of roses to tulips in her garden is 5 to 6. So roses, tulip. If there are 242 total flowers in her garden, how many of them are tulips? This type of problem is referred to as an allocation type problem. So in an allocation type problem, you sum up the parts. 5 plus 6 is 11. And we have tulips here. Tulips, we have 6 over 11. So 6 out of the 11 parts are tulips. That gets multiplied to the total, and you should end up with your answer after doing that. So 6 times 242 divided by 11 gives us 132. In question 12, it takes 8 people 12 hours to clean an office. Takes 8 people 12 hours to clean an office. How long would it take 6 people to clean the office? Okay, this question is a little trickier than it seems, because when you clean a room, the more people that you have, the less time it takes to finish. So you might be tempted to say 8 to 12 and 6 to n, and solving for n you end up with 9. That's not the right way. So you might be tempted to select 9, but that's not the case, okay? What we do know is that the more people that you have, the less time it takes. And to represent that algebraically, we can say that the time, t, that it takes to finish is equal to a constant k times 1 over n, where the time is inversely proportional to the number of people. Think about it. If it was like a constant k times n, then the more people that you add, the more time it takes, right? Just think about it like that. So to make sure that time decreases with greater number of people, we make t and n inversely proportional to each other. Let me rewrite it the way it should be. The reason why this is important is because we can now substitute t with 12 and n with 8 and solve for k. Let me show you. So t is equal to k 1 over 8, and I'll multiply both sides by 8 to solve for k. I get 96 on the left side, and k is equal to 96. So using the same formula as before, I'll try to make room here. T is equal to 96 times 1 over n. This time we have 6 people, so I'll replace n with 6. If I multiply these out, 96 times 1 over 6, I end up with 16 hours. And it makes more sense. It will take more time with less people. So I'll select C as my answer. Last question of this series. Greg has 9 paintings. The Hickory Museum has enough space to display 3 of them. From how many different sets of 3 paintings does Greg have to choose? This has to do with a problem that we did in our previous video. So we have 9 paintings, and from how many different sets of 3 paintings does Greg have to choose? What I think you do here is you take 9, choose 3. There's a function on your calculator. Most calculators, scientific calculators, will have it. 9, choose 3. It's right here. You see? NCR. So I'll type in 9, Shift, C. The C appears on mine, and 3. I get 84. And there's also a formula for this, like an actual formula to represent C. In case the SAT requires that you memorize the formulas and not use a scientific calculator, then you should know that formula. In fact, if I remember correctly, the combination formula is this, where you have the total number of paintings, 9 in this case, over, and I think it is, then it's n minus the different sets in our case, so I'll just call it r. That's factorial, multiply to r factorial. So if we were to do this manually, 9 factorial over 9 minus 3 is 6 factorial times 3 factorial. And you can use your calculator, type in 9 factorial, or you can even expand this out into its factors, times 8, times 7, times 6, and cancel out from the bottom. And you would end up eventually with this as the quotient. If you would like more practice, stay tuned and watch part 3 where we cover more math questions. Hope to see you soon.